Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be working on the Lab 8 Sheet 2 video, which is the candlestick. So if you follow along, we will go ahead and get started. This is what we're going to be drawing today, and you have access to this dimension sheet that'll help you. I mean, you can follow along with the video. I'm going to go through the whole process. However, this is uploaded onto the Lab 8 content section. So feel free to go ahead and grab this for your reference when you're creating your part. So I'm going to close this out. And the first thing that we're going to do is open up a new part. Now, the first thing you want to do once you're in your new part is change your unit system to mmgs because we're going to be drawing in millimeters today. And from here, go ahead and open up a sketch on the front plane. Now, once you have your sketch tools open, you can do the drop down underneath the line tool to select your midpoint line. And starting at the origin, because you know I like to keep things centered around the origin, we're going to create a vertical line, and we're going to dimension that line out to 220 millimeters. Just like that. And it doesn't look like your line has gotten any bigger, but it does say 220. It's because the first line or circle, the first shape that you draw in a new sketch, when you dimension it, it will scale inside the view. So it has gotten larger, but you really, what happened was it got larger and your view got farther away at the same time. So that's, if it doesn't look like it got bigger, it really did. Now from here, let's grab our normal line tool. And we're going to draw a horizontal line, make sure it snaps horizontal. And that is going to be 20 millimeters. Oopsies. 20. Just like that. Now let's go ahead and grab our circle tool. And we're gonna draw two circles because I know we're gonna need two circles. So let's just draw two right off the bat so that we have those. Now, give us 2 points. We're going to use our point tool and grab the very top right there. It should snap and create a relationship. And this point, click on that point, hold control, and then click on the end of this line. And we're going to make those coincident with each other. And then we're going to grab our smart dimension tool and dimension, didn't go into it. Pull this kind of diagonally up, click, and we want a radius of 10. So this is asking for a diameter, so we need a diameter of 20, which will give us a circle with a radius of 10. To check that, you can, with your dimension selected, you can right click and display it as a radius. And there we go. We do, in fact, have a 10 millimeter radius. So next, let's grab our line tool. And from the bottom point of this circle, make sure it snaps to that quadrant there. You're going to go ahead and click. So it's a vertical line. And this is going to be dimensioned per our dimension sheet as 40 millimeters. Now we already have this other circle drawn with the point. So it's going to click on that point, hold control, click on that point, and we're going to make those coincident as well. Just like that. And then we're going to dimension this out to, it needs to be a 20 millimeter radius this time. So we need a 40 millimeter diameter. And now you don't have to do this, but if you want to check your work, you can display it as a radius. However, when you have a dimension kind of edge to edge like this, when you right click, it will not give you that option for display options. It won't allow you to do it. So you don't have to do this, but if you want to, You can delete that dimension. Again, it's not fully constrained anymore. We're going to grab a dimension and drag it diagonally like that. And then once that places, oops, yeah, we got to lock it in there. And then you can right click, display as radius, and there you go. It is fully defined. Now let's go ahead and grab our line tool. And from the bottom point of this circle, draw another vertical line, make sure it snaps. And that is also going to be 40 millimeters. And with that, we're very close to being done with our profile here, our kind of half profile. And I'll show you why we're doing that in just a minute. And we're going to take our line tool, come straight out from the bottom of the original line that we drew. And that is going to be dimensioned at 90 millimeters. Just like that. The next sketch tool we're going to use is a new one, the 3-point arc. And you can just click on this point, kind of click somewhere in this area. You don't want to be directly above. You don't want to be snapping vertical to this point because then it'll create a vertical relationship. So let's just kind of snap kind of somewhere right over here. And then the third point allows you to manipulate the radius of that arc. So I'm just going to kind of snap it like this so that this kind of looks tangent. It's not exactly tangent, but that's okay. And then we're going to do another 3-point arc from this point to this point, and then kind of snap it out in this area here. Now, before we control the radiuses, we need to create some tangent relationships. So click on this arc, and then hold Control and click on this line, and make those tangent, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing with this arc and this arc. So select both and make those tangent as well. And last but not least, we control the radiuses to fully define our sketches. So here we go. So this radius is going to be 60. And this radius is going to be 12.5. There we go. So before we exit our sketch, we need to do one more operation, which is trim. And just kind of grab your trim tool, start kind of down maybe in this area, and just click and drag just like that, trim off the inside of those circles. And now we have a single closed profile, which is what we need to execute a feature, 3D feature. And from here, you can exit the sketch. You don't need to. Go to your Features tab and Revolve Boss Base, which is a new feature for us. That allows us to take a profile and rotate it 360 degrees or revolve it around an axis. So if you accidentally click the wrong axis, for example, like if I accidentally click this line here, it obviously is not, it's kind of a cool bowl shape here, but that is obviously not what we are trying to accomplish. So if that happens to you, just go ahead and click on line 2 in the axis of revolution and click delete. And then you can reselect this line. And there we go. Now it's starting to look a little bit more like a candlestick. And we can go ahead and click the green check mark. Now from here, open up a sketch on the top of this candle. Use your circle tool and start it right on the origin. And the diameter of that is going to be 30 millimeters. So go ahead and create a diameter, and that's going to be 30. And do Control-7 so that we got a little bit of a better view on it. And from here, so you can exit the sketch and do it from there, or you can just go right into the extrude cut. And we need to make a hole so that we can fit our candle in. So this hole is going to be 25 millimeters deep. But if we do a control one, we want this to taper in. So we're going to use this draft command right here. And we're going to do a 15-degree draft. So see, if I change it to 10, it will change the taper. Oops. If I do 30, for example, it's going to make it really small. So we want this to be 15 degrees. You use draft a lot with mold making and like injection molded parts. You would use draft on. So that's one of the main applications, but you can also use it to control tapers when you're doing a cut. And so there we go. So last but not least, we need to create this handle, and there are 2 sketches involved in creating that handle. So go ahead and open up a sketch on the front plane. Grab your, drill into the line tool and grab your center line. Now snapping right at this bottom midpoint, you're going to click once and then draw a vertical line. Make sure it snaps vertical. And you're going to control that dimension at 10 millimeters. And grab your line tool again. Just come straight out horizontal, make sure it snaps. And then you are going to control that dimension at 60. And from here, we need 2 arcs. So let's grab our 3-point arc tool. Start at this point. You can kind of come somewhere in this area over here and make an arc just like that. And then we're going to create another arc from this point. Just drag it straight over horizontal. Click. And then you can kind of drag this up so that it looks pretty close to the actual shape that we're going to need. And from here, we need to create our tangent relationships. So select the line, and then select the arc, or the arc and then the line. It really doesn't matter. Click tangent, just like that. And do the same thing here. So at this point, we are going to need 2 radiuses, radii, and we're going to need a vertical dimension from this point to this point. So let's go ahead and do the vertical dimension first. So grab our smart dimension tool, click the point, and kind of drag straight out. You can drag it in different directions, like you can do diagonally, but we want to go straight out to control that vertical dimension. And that's going to be 65. Just like that. And before we do our radius, let's take this point and this point, and we actually want to make those horizontal to each other. There we go. So now that these are horizontal, this vertical dimension is actually controlling both of these points distance from this line down here. So that's kind of what that does there. And so the last thing we have to do here is go ahead and add a dimension here. So this is going to be 150, just like that. And this may already be fully defined on your computer. If it isn't, go ahead and add this dimension and constrain that at 20. I'm going to get an error because mine is fully constrained because I have all my tangent relationships set up properly. So I'm just going to make it driven, which means it's not necessarily controlling that. We're just referencing. And just a little pro tip. If you say you had geometry in here and you wanted to not have this really long line, you go ahead and click on that. And in your leaders options, you can use this broken leader. And there it is. I think they call it foreshorten. So we have one more sketch to do and one more feature to add, and we will have our fully completed candlestick. So from here, let's close this sketch and open up a sketch on the right plane. And so we're going to start this sketch right at that point where this 10 millimeter line is. So before we do anything, let's go ahead and select that construction line and just convert that. You'll notice that when it's converted, it'll make it a solid line. So we're just going to select it and then make it for construction. We can zoom in a little bit and make it so you can tell that it's for construction. And then let's grab our ellipse tool right there. And starting on the top of this line, we're going to drag straight out to the left. Make sure it's straight out. Maybe. There we go. So if it doesn't work, you can kind of hover over this line, and then when you come straight out, it will be perpendicular, just like that, and then come straight up. And before we do anything, actually, I'll show you the dimensions first, and then I'll show you how to fully constrain it. So let's use our smart dimension and go point to point, just like that. And this is going to be 35 millimeters. And then top to bottom, just like that. This is going to be 10 millimeters. And you'll notice, even though we have our point fixed here right in the middle, or it should have been fixed, it looks like it didn't create that relationship, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is from this point to this point, that is going to be 10. But see, now it's given us an issue. So one way we can do this is let's constrain these first. So let's make sure that these are horizontal. And there we go. That's going to constrain it. Sometimes when these points aren't fully properly constrained, it's a little confusing. So first we make these horizontal. If it's still not fully constrained, you can make these vertical. And then if it's still not fully defined, it's likely because this center point is not where it needs to be. But in this case, we are now good to go. Exit that sketch. And I'm going to do a Control-7 to give myself a nice isometric view. And so what we're going to do is a new type of extrude, which is a swept boss base. We're going to grab that swept boss base tool, and it's asking us for a path, which is this, and a profile, which is this. So we're going to grab our profile, and then it's going to ask for a path, just like that. And you can see, so when we click the green check mark, now we have our nice little handle sticking right out where it needs to be. The last thing we want to do is just put a fillet on here so there's no sharp edges. And oops, I didn't mean to open a sketch. I just meant to click. And we're going to do the fillet command in the features toolbar. And let's make this just 1 millimeter is fine. Click the green check. And there you have it. If you want to add a appearance, feel free to just come over into the appearance library over here. I like to do maybe like a polished brass is kind of nice. Double click, and there you have it. So make sure this is saved in your submissions folder, and we're going to come back to it at the end of the sheet 4 lecture video when we go ahead and plot all of these together. And do that, and I will see you in the next one.